Good morning, everybody across Europe who happens to be turning in. Yes, I'm saying hello to you first because I appreciate the insane hour you woke up to. But for most of us here watching along, well, good afternoon from Australia. My name is Formal. Joining me is Gex, and I'm excited. We're going to be bringing you a fun weekend, actually, of some Trackmania action.
We are indeed coming in here for the AOTC finals for 2023. This is actually the only AOTC that's going to be running for the year, so pretty excited to get into this. We've seen a lot of good representation across the World Series for the region, and now we get to bring it home.
And this is kind of a special edition because in the past, you know, the Middle East has kind of been participating alongside us in this area, but now they have the introduction of their own MEA Trackmania Championship. So while it kind of sucks we won't be seeing them kind of participating in the AOTC this time around, seeing that own region grow is exciting in itself. And we've kind of had a big influx of like Australian and New Zealand drivers, I'd like to say, taking their place. So maybe we've gone more east on the globe than west, but either way, we still have a large pool of drivers, and it's going to be kind of exciting to see how they compete.
Yeah, quite a lot of Australians turning up. New Zealand out in force as well. A lot of New Zealand there, but we do have the Indonesians turning up as usual. Yeah, a few from, I think that's Myanmar, actually. Should be interesting to see them come out. So, you know, pretty international representation here across the region, so really good to see the show up.
Yeah, and so it does usually breed for good competition when it does kind of play out like that. Obviously, a couple big names we're looking at. Maybe it's a bit of the regional bias. I don't know if you've picked up on our more Western accent, but we are more Australian-focused. Apologies for people who are rooting for Singapore. There is a Singapore broadcast being run right now, as well as, I believe, a French one. So do check those out if you get the chance and you want something a bit more localized to your language. But Mutta is the name I'm looking at, Gex. I have high hopes he's going to be able to make a deep run here today.
I think he's definitely a favorite out here. Somebody who has been kind of chasing him up, if you've been watching the Global Series, is Neumad, though. I think Neumad definitely coming in here with some chance. Kimmy showing up really well. I'm not going to call him Kim1 here. I've made enough memes with that. J-Swag. There's a few good names coming out here from the more global side of things, but yeah, it really comes down to how you're going to play locally in these 5 tracks. That a lot of players, I don't feel, maybe have put in as much time into these as they would have the World Series.
Yeah, we will see. I mean, I always like that. I mean, in a perfect world, I'd feel like the drivers would have to learn the track right when we get into it. But that's neither here nor there. A little bit into the format. In a few minutes' time, we're going to be starting off with our seeding rounds, which will be lasting for about 55 minutes. From there, we will kind of seed into a bracket. So the upper drivers will go into the upper bracket. Some of the lowers will be down in the lower. And then it's going to be a pretty standard cup format with 4 drivers per track. Top 2 moving on, bottom 2 going to the lower bracket or sadly being eliminated. Again, these matches are going to be happening all weekend long, so you're going to be getting a lot of Trackmania from this region, which is always a fun time to be had.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do have somebody in particular to thank for the region being as prominent as it was. A big interaction here from one player in particular who sadly is no longer with us. Max, I believe we've got something ready for that guy.
Yeah, exactly. Look, in memoriam of Gamerboy 2508, their family helped provide to this prize pool, and we've kind of come together to present the Gamerboy 2508 award. And with that comes a message from friends and family and members of the community. And on that note, we'd like to pay our respects to them and air this video for you all.
Replaceable.
Hi, I'm Reza014, Trackmania Asia Oceania and Trackmania Indonesia co-founder.
Hi, I am Leviathan, Trackmania Asia O staff and Trackmania Indonesia co-founder.
Hello, I am SRK. I am the founder of Fastpoint and I was also a mentor for Gaming Boy.
Hello, my name is Kuda. I'm a player for Antique Esports and Gaming Boy Xtimate at Wolves Esport.
Hi, I am Facern, Gaming Boy's sister.
Hi, and I'm Ari. I'm a longtime friend of Gaming Boy since elementary school.
Hi, I'm Syntax, a Trackmania Indonesia member and also one of Gaming Boy's friends.
6 months ago, we lost a fellow member of the community and our friend, Gaming Boy 2508.
This loss left a hole to many of us in the Trackmania community, as well as his friends and family.
Gaming Boy's presence in the Asia and Oceania community was irreplaceable.
He was a young talent that everyone looked up to, with his kindness and willingness to help people.
He inspired a lot of people in this region to push themselves in the game and improve the overall skill level of the players in this region in Trackmania.
Simply put, he's the entry point for a lot of players in Asia and Oceania community to go pro.
Without him, the Trackmania Asia and Oceania community as we know it wouldn't even exist at all.
With utmost respect to his legacy, and with blessings from his friends and family,
We would like to introduce the Gaming Boy 2508 award.
Given to the best performing rookie player in every edition of AOTC going forward.
on behalf of the Trackmania Asia and Oceania community,
And Gaming Boy's friends and family.
Thank you, and enjoy the rest of AOTC.
So, a special thing as well, Gex, about this event that we really should be sharing with everyone at all as well is the fact that the prize pool, in reference to Gamer Boy's name, $250.80. And normally that 80 cents would seem weird, but it's the numbers in the name. And again, a big thank you to the family continuing to support a scene that Gamer Boy did love when he was with us. And we hope with our competition today, we do him proud.
Yeah, like I said, super influential here. A lot of the players will be playing out of skills developed alongside him, and largely because of him, he gave like a ton of advice to these guys. He was very, very influential to the scene. But in saying that, we have to see what those skills bring out on field, and I think we're already seeing that our qualifiers have begun.
Yeah, so our seeding stage already well and truly underway. I mean, we saw the tail end of some of those first points coming through right now. Again, this is primarily for the seeding, but it also gives us a better idea, who maybe it's going to be informed today, who's been putting in the practice. And within our group that we're watching right now, good to see Spark out in front. A little happy to see that. Tell us a little bit more about this driver.
Spark, I don't have a ton about Spark. He has turned up to international events. I don't feel like he's been at the front of the pack particularly, but he definitely has shown well at times, and he's clearly good in this format. Like I said, I think there's going to be a lot of this to do with just who has been actually putting in the time to these 5 tracks.
Yeah, I mean, Min as well was kind of up there within the first 2 as well, so Min already off to a pretty strong start. Look, Gex, this is how this is going to go, right? I'm just going to pick a random name and say, tell me about them. Like that.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a fair few here I can tell you about. I'll say that. There's some really, really good names turning out today.
Planetary Goose, someone who we kind of ignored in our introduction. I mean, that's a pretty big name.
Yeah, that was one I missed.
Let's go to him.
Planetary Goose is massive, has been making really big waves in the international scene from our main series over there, but he's also doing just really well in the main campaign. If you're in the OCE region, you have seen that name pop up time and time again, so I'm expecting big things out there. Sved as well and J-Swag kind of all on that same boat.
Sved actually at the moment currently in first place for this round, holding a pretty good gap over Min, Spark, and J-Swag. All 4 names that we're mentioning. I mean, they're kind of like the 4 favorites we should be expecting us. Oh, I didn't quite catch who that was who went off to the side. A little bit awkward there, but crossing the line, Spark's going to get another 50 points in their favor. Min, I believe that's their 3rd second place in a row right now, which is fine because all you're doing is accruing points. So Min looking like a likely favorite to be our number 1 seed.
Good to see Einol coming up there as number 8 as well. Has been sitting well back in the pack until this moment. Somebody I do expect to have the capacity to do a lot better than this is Simply Nick, who came in very late in that one. But Simply Nick has a ton of ability here. Really veteran player, one of the biggest followings in OCE right now, alongside kind of that mudder space.
And we would be saying now, if you're not seeing, some of the names that we listed before, there are 2 seeding sort of heats happening at the same time. We're only following one of them right now. So some of those other big names are still here. Don't get us wrong. Like, Butta still is registered, still is competing, but is on that other side as we start this next round. Min, I think, sick of coming in second place off to a hot start, currently in the lead right now, just ahead of Planetary Goose.
Yeah, really good to see Planetary Goose just as consistent as well. Now Simply Nick coming up into the pack as well. Good to see. Paul Mall has been really consistent here. Might not be leading the pack, but really taking a very, very consistent run here. Might get him high in the long run.
And something we haven't actually talked about too much yet, though, is sort of these tracks that we're running this time. 5 different tracks, all kind of, I believe, me sort of put together for this event. We haven't really run through a round yet, so what can you tell us about where we're racing right now?
Putumayo, definitely an interesting one, bringing in elements of kind of aero pipes from earlier this year, right at the end there. Nowhere near as hard, of course. One thing looking across the tracks for this entire season of AOTC, though, that shocked me, it's my first time coming into AOTC, so feel free to correct me if this is not something new, but the paths on these are confusing. There are fake finish lines, there are loops around that display the finish line to you twice, but you need another checkpoint to get through. Learning these tracks for the first couple of runs for me was a nightmare.
Yeah, but at this stage, though, it is sort of that final weekend. We'd expect our drivers to be prepared and ready for this one. Yeah, it's no world tour in terms of difficulty, but I kind of like that sometimes because it is just going to reward, you know, the drivers who risk it that little bit more, the one who's put in that more practice and who can find those faster lines. And speaking of finding fast lines, actually Spark right now on this round, very quick start as Min, sort of the other favorite out in front, has fallen a bit behind. So Spark, Goose, and Min, they've been the 3 battling out in the front, and this round's looking very Spark favored.
Spark representing Antic. Well, their Spark just disappears there. Gonna head way back, really having some issues right now. Spark has just gone right to the back of the pack. That is super disappointing. Only a couple of turns left there as well to make out a first place position, and he just gives it away.
Yeah, a little bit awkward right there from Spark, but I mean, SVD will happily collect those 50 points instead. No real upset round winner just yet in this one, although if we are going to see an upset in this group, who are we looking at? Like, who could maybe kind of get some surprise points in?
I mean, Min is somebody we don't really see so much on the international scene, so there might be some level of surprise there from viewers, but we do know that Min has some really ridiculous times there and actually did average as top just then. SVD coming in really well, Planetary Goose coming in really well. I don't feel like those ones are so much of a surprise, but yeah, quite interesting to see it coming out with the more unheard of Min there leading the pack. I'm sure the players know Min very, very well though.
Hey, he was the first driver who called out to me, despite all of like maybe the bigger names within the team. So I'm excited to see Min. I've been spending most of the time actually watching their POV. All right, Gex. So I'm a believer in Min. Here we go though. Let's take a round through our second track.
I think Pormal's shockingly consistent here. Might not be blazing any trails with times, but just very, very consistent on this. Simply Nick always has the capacity to be much faster than he generally is just based on practice. He just spreads himself too thin here, I believe.
Min had a little bit of an issue. But yeah, again, though, like we're on to our second track with this one. Like, what can you tell us about where we're racing?
Scarecrow coming in here. This one is quite interesting. Second track there. One of the only 2 tracks that doesn't feature any plastic here as well. So going to be a fairly high-paced one, especially when you're not going through those grass sections.
Yeah, and it will be curious to see, you know, how much the second track kind of shakes up that order a bit. I know a couple of our favorites from the first round already running into troubles. I'm going to keep saying his name, Min, because that just happens to be where I care, but Lies ran into big issues during the warm-up. Obviously, the round hasn't started yet, but if that carries over to the round, well, things could get a little bit spicy. Here we go, though, round 1 of 5 onto our second track, and although Min might have the lead right now, looks a little shaky. Nami's a name I've been seeing kind of up there in the front at the start of a lot of these rounds. Do we know much about this driver?
Which one, sorry, was that?
Nami.
Nami. Oh, yeah, Nami. Nami has been around, hasn't really been making big times, so I am surprised to see them so far ahead. They're up in the pack. It's nice to see that, but there was a big error there for a moment.
Yeah, again, it's at the start. They're in the front. So they've got the beginning, like the first couple checkpoints down packed, all right? That's cool to see.
I think
but
showing a lot of practice there on these tracks.
and you always practice the start more than the end, right?
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
that's where you're putting in the effort and you mess up, reset it. Spark continuing that heart form, looking pretty good as a couple drivers have found their way into the pool kind of towards the end right there, SQLC. Decent time. Nami, who we called out before, actually kind of in an awkward spot and has given up on this run. So let's not try and cast her curse the up-and-comers who are looking for the upsets in the future. I'll take the L on that.
Yeah, this one going to be a devastating one for a couple of players wiping out here. This track in particular has some really good transitions just for gaining some speed. Kind of hard to mess up too badly, but you can definitely gain some big time out of them by doing them perfectly.
We're going to watch our next round right now. A couple bumps for some big names at the start. SVD and Min actually wind up getting a little bit of a tap right there, which is good for, Planetary Goose. Had a strong first round and is looking to kind of catch up on the points to get up towards Spark and Min. Is, Nemi, we called Nemi out for doing well. And since then, it's been a train wreck, Gex. We're not allowed to say the name anymore until they're in the top 10. That's the rule. We need to help them as much as possible.
Even so, making some good time back. Itoli is going to be chasing up this kind of front pack here. Spark's still in there as well. Really impressed by Spark doing very well representing Antic well. You are seeing that Trident name and J-Swag doing really well as well. Not really surprising there. SQLC as well. And diving into the pool at the end. Another good one there from Planetary Goose and Min. It's starting to become very predictable that these two are coming out in these top 2 places.
What about Crazy Bus Driver up there with the 47.8, though? That's a name we haven't really spoken about too much yet. And, I mean, they're not in the top 10 on points, but this could be their track, and you have no idea?
No, Abs, I've got nothing on Crazy Bus Driver. That's a totally new one to me, so I'm glad to see it out.
Exactly.
I'm always keen to learn about new players.
Yeah, we'll see if Crazy Bus Driver can keep that one up. I mean, this, full group stage, cup mode, it's all about the consistency, and no one's been more consistent than Min, already out in first place in this next round, trying to build some distance on Spark, both in the overall standings and on this run. But that's going to be a mistake from Min. A little bit of bumps drops him back about 7, 8, 9, 10 positions, and now Spark has another chance for a 50 burger. SQLC looking a little further up the pack as well. We've been calling out their name constant 4th and 5th. I think this track as well kind of benefits to their style.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. SQLC, very, very consistent player in general, I think, if you are looking at that more global stage. Once again, Paul coming up well in the track, actually making his way more towards the front than last track, I think, here as well. J-Swag still doing well. Simply Nick has put the time in on this one, though. There you go, him coming out there in a 4th place. I think that might be the best placement he's had so far in these qualifiers.
It is, and of course, the driver who we called out saying, "Oh, they're doing surprisingly well," did kind of bonk and lose all their time. I just can't do it this morning, Gex, or this afternoon, wherever you happen to be. Like everyone, I'm like, "Ooh, they're looking good." It just explodes in their face. So
it's all about consistency, though, right? I mean, that's the entire format is consistency, and that means that the consistency should be tested. That's what the tracks are designed for. They're not easy.
No, they're not, but there's only been 2 drivers who I can say have been consistent so far, and that's been Min and Spark. Like, they're the only 2 who I feel like have gotten a top position every single time. As I say that, Min bonks and drops to the back. I'm done.
You're cursing this to an extreme. I would argue Planetary Goose as well definitely has had some level of consistency issues, but we see him too much at the front to be, I think, too overly concerned about that.
We'll see. I mean, Crazy Bus Driver at the moment actually currently sitting, I believe, in P3. So, again, a driver we don't know too much about from the DXA team. Now, that is a team I do know about. They're a fun group of lads, and they are here for a good time. So, to see Crazy Bus Driver get another top 3 on this track, kind of pulling some attention to themselves.
Yeah. Paul Mull, another one I'm just really happy to see doing so consistently. It's not big times, like I said, but Paul Mull just very, very consistent here. Maybe just playing safe. I mean, it is seeding here. Don't need to send it to the moon.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it does play this one out as we start our next round. SQLC going to go middle of the pack as they move along with this one. I'm curious if the same momentum will continue for the time being, but Planetary Goose, again, has been getting better and better with each round, I feel like. I would love to see the Goose get the 50 burger to kind of wrap this one up.
Yeah, definitely. Planetary Goose looking good right now. Tryhard Nubs, they're looking a lot better than usual as well. Spark still following up. It's these consistent names at the front time and time again. I know this time actually being able to get up in the pack. It's nice to see Sved in there as well. Fairly consistent positioning here. A little way back from the lead, but in that pack.
Yeah, right there in the middle of everything.
Good from Nami.
Yeah, it was good. Anami, yeah. You know what? We didn't say their name for a while.
Yeah.
X.
That was what did it.
Top 8. So there we go. It's all part of the plan. SVD up there. Enol as well. Up there has been not a name we've been able to call out too much, but they're able to finish on a high here at the end of the second track. Spark, though, has taken the lead over Min by 2 points. The two of them a 70-point gap over the rest of the crew. So they still are the two most consistent, but pretty evenly matched up there in the front as well.
Yeah, and seeing that third player that we were talking about with consistency there falling back as well is going to be interesting to see if we can get Planetary Goose back into that top contention as well, because was in the top there very, very happily after the first map. Going into map number 3, it's going to be Cherry, though. This is actually, if you're playing it out of the extra listings there, you will be playing Cherry as map number 1, so this one should be interesting for you guys.
Yeah, it should be as we get ready to hit our warm-up stage. Hoping for another good rounds like the last one. I'm actually getting more and more invested, though, in this fight for first place between, you know, our two in the front, Min and Spark. I mean, as you said before, Min, maybe not as known, but this is how you can get noticed as well. Maybe picked up a team for next year if you keep up this form. Maybe, you know, look to the Korean driver. Like, I'm actually surprised we don't see more Koreans in Trackmania, so it's exciting to see one now.
I love the design of this track in the how much over-under you get happening here. It's almost tunnels coming through. But there are some really deceptively tricky little parts to this track, particularly right at the beginning, that left-hand turn into the right-hand. You get this little tiny strip of grass that's supposed to... It does help you initiate a drift that you can take around that full right-hand turn, but if you don't get that perfect, you just end up slamming into a corner.
Also, some of the transitions as well are like pretty much pinpoint accuracy you're going to be looking for in that middle of the track. I've been watching a lot of drivers struggle with it throughout this warm-up, so we'll see if they'll be able to piece it together as we get ready to go for our third track. I mean, look, J.K. Lee, not as much of a fan as you of it as you are, Gex. What do we know about J.K. Lee?
J.K. Lee, not a name I know well. I have heard the name, but that's about all I've got there. Not coming through with a team tag, which is where we're seeing a lot of our best players coming out. Trident and Antic coming through, representing really well. But yeah, no, a few of these players that are coming out with no tags on them probably might even be looking to get a pickup at some point.
Get on the team, beat the guy already on it, you know, take their spot. That's always been like a memento in the past. Currently out in front, though, it is the same two familiar names, Spark and Min, going at it right where they left off. And whoever wins out of these two does have the lead currently in this seeding stage. So we're going to be expecting them to be going wheel to wheel. Round 1, though, goes to Min.
Yeah, some really tricky, like you said, the transitions there. If you mess it up, you end up bouncing because this is a plastic-heavy track. We haven't seen Technicolor yet, actually, either. The only ice track on here. Well, track featuring ice, I should say. But yeah, this is one of our 3 with plastic, and it is very plastic-heavy.
Yeah, I know. And you know, for plastic enjoyers like myself, hey, I'm all for it. Give it to me straight. Especially if you can get, you know, some of the wet plastic happening, but that's not... Oh,
no, you sinner.
I like it.
Wet plastic, no.
I like wet. I like wet everything, all right? All races should be in the rain, Trackmania or otherwise. And if you don't have rain on the track, we'll pour water all over your computer.
Do you remember when we played F1? This is not... All right. Okay. If you like it, you are a fan of chaos. I know that about you.
Pour water on the computer to simulate how difficult it can be. Let's see what happens. That's extreme mode. All right.
SQLC pushing really well here.
Yeah, actually making their way up through that pack. Will they challenge the top 2? I don't know. I don't think anyone's challenging Min this time around. SQLC, though, happy to hold down third, but with about a car's length between everyone. Unless there's going to be a mistake from Min, it should be an easy 1, 2, 3.
Oh, I
Min,
know.
Spark, SQLC, although got close from Goose at the end.
I know was holding a really good position, the mid pack there, and wiped out on the final corner there. Got one little touch there as well, so disappointing finish on that run through. Planetary Goose actually coming out 4th there has been disappointing in the last track and this one compared to first track, coming out really well, but does come out very, very well this time around. I'm always looking forward to seeing Planetary Goose do well, but he has proven that he is one of the least consistent players out here, despite speed.
Also, I kind of want to point out that time that we just got from Min. I mean, that's right up there with the author time. Not sure it was the world record, but, you know, we're getting some author medals, I guess, thrown out.
Authors on this is so hard.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
so hard.
That was actually a pretty monster round from Min, who I think is going even faster this time around. I mean, Min is really starting to warm up and just get in the groove and starting to leave Spark a little bit further and further behind.
SQLC falling a lot further back in this one as well, but it's still Min and Spark. Spark is going to take a good line through there as Min makes a mistake, and Spark heading straight through the checkpoints, up through the red plastic here, and is taking a nice line through to the finish.
Yeah, 53.4, solid time. Planetary Goose, of course, right up there as well. We'll be able to grab that second position SVD as well. So again, the familiar name, Simply Nick and Nami, though, a little bit further up than what they've been in the past. JK Lee, you know, for someone who was complaining about this map at the start, to get a top 8's got to feel pretty good for them as we get closer and closer. I mean, already calling out right now, someone said they were learning. I think that was Jake, Simply Nick was saying, hey, they're learning as they go. So that means you should be winning by the end of this, no?
That was kind of my point about Simply Nick. He is spread so thin as a prolific streamer. He doesn't really get to put as much time into each individual track before he has to swap out for content. So you do see Simply Nick coming into a lot of these events with less practice on each individual track than maybe you would see in others. In saying that, that's where I'm seeing people like still looking at Paul Mall. Every single track, Paul Mall might not be up the front, but every single track so far, Paul Mall has been taking up basically the same positions, like 7th, 8th area, and has been able to hold that consistently.
Well, talking about trying to hold a consistent line, I mean, Min has been, for the most part, consistent. Had a little bit of a roughie that last round, but now it's going to be holding down that first place. Only Goose really can challenge them going through those last checkpoints. It will be Min, a 52.9. Massive time right there, only 1/10 off of that author time. So good little run from Min, who's been getting a fair few 52s in this one. Another track where just Min looks confident.
Spark coming through late into a good position there, but just held some really high pace through the last corner and actually made back, I think, 3 positions there right in that final corner.
Yeah, it is a bit further back. Look, we've got one more round here in Cherry.
Back in front.
One last time on the plastic, and when we look at that score line, I mean, Min has just been, well, back in the lead. Min and Spark trading positions time and time again, and with the difference between first and second being 10 points, whoever wins between these two, you would expect to be the one to have the lead going into our next track. And a bit of a rough start for Min means Spark should be looking good, but has Planetary Goose and Crazy Bus Driver finally found the lines to take down these top 2?
Crazy Bus Driver looking fantastic on this one, taking very consistent lines here. Nice early transition to try and hold some speed, but might have shaved a bit off there. J-Swag making his way through, the Trident member representing well here. You got to say, of the players that aren't in actual teams right now, the Trackmania New Zealand tag is coming up in the front sector so often.
Well, that's just because Planetary Goose, all right? Like the Goose is honking his way to the front, and you got to give credit to that, so much so that they're going to win this last round with a 53-0. Had they been putting times like that throughout, that would have been a massive round series for Planetary Goose. Instead, though, they'll just be happy with that late 50. That'll advance them a fair few points back in the middle of the pack as Min struggling hard, actually. Still hasn't finished yet. Going to be looking at a P20, and that's a shocker from our leader.
What on earth? Yeah. Does actually drop first place as a result of that as well. Now a decent lead out there for Spark.
Yeah, going into the last round, a 15-point lead. So if you're going to play, like winner kind of takes all, you kind of expect Min to have to win 4 of these final 5 rounds with the assumption Spark would get second. But as we all know in this game, that is an assumption and then some. So let's go to our next track here, Gex. It's going to be another, hopefully another good one. Are we ready for ice just yet? It doesn't look like it. I don't think we're getting the ice till the last round.
Yeah, ice will be Technicolor, so yeah, looks like last one. Chordata, another fantastic map coming out here. First in our listings, but we will see Author as Jorday coming out here. Jordata is another one with that kind of fake finish on it. You actually have to loop back around and come back to the finish line a second time before you can finish out here. Seeing as Simply Nick is learning the map here, kind of interested to see if Simply Nick works that out on the first pass.
Yeah, I mean, this is also another gear-heavy map, so it's got to be really focused on sort of maintaining that momentum, not accidentally downshifting at an opportune time, or like upshifting perhaps a little bit as well. Maybe not quite where you would want it. Either way, though, will be exciting to see how this one does play off. Author time, which again, author times for these tracks, it isn't quite like, your standard author time. Like, to get an author time here means you put down something strong. It's 46.348. And that's where we're going to be looking for our front runners to be. As this track, it's road, it's dirt, it's grass, it's plastic, but no ice. And that makes me sad.
Looks like Simply Nick did work that out on the first pass and did fairly well out of that. So good to see Simply Nick coming through with the head game here. He is a veteran player, so it's not super surprising to see him work it out very, very quickly.
Yeah, we'll be excited to see how he plays out, rocking that banded skin, the blue and black out there. So it is good to catch out, and even from the start right now, Nick actually off to another hot start, but realistically, I'm
very hot here.
Similar names, though. Planetary Goose, Min, Spark, they're all on those fast lines. They're kind of the 3 that have been most impressive to me throughout this seeding stage. I'll be curious to see if Min is as confident here as they have been in the past couple tracks, or if this is now where Spark from Antic really starts to pull away. It's looking like it's going to be the case for this first round here, Gex.
Simply Nick running very wide out there as well. J-Swag getting out in front there with a little bit of separation now as Trident reps well, but still unable to catch kind of that very, very front pack right now as Sved does make some time on him into 4th position there. Min in 3rd, Planetary Goose 2nd, and Spark leading up.
15 more points being put ahead. That's very much going to double the lead that they had on Min coming into this round. And this is where we could be seeing Spark pulling away with the seeding, looking to take that number 1 spot. Of course, this seeding is just that. This isn't really the most high stakes, high pressure situations, and we're seeing a lot of decent times coming across at the end right there. As you could, 30-point lead now in favor of Spark in this one. And that is essentially, you would have to assume with the 1st and 2nd rule, a 3-round cushion, which is very nice to have.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's definitely not unrecoverable by Min, but it requires big mistakes on the front of Spark, and we haven't really been seeing those. Spark's been very, very consistent through this while holding pace, and that's a tough ask. Simply Nick up in 2nd place right now, looking really good. He was quite quick through the warm-up, but he continually chooses left of that obstacle there. I think this actually might be the track that we only just found out going right of that obstacle would actually be the faster line. It literally in the last minutes before stream that the line came out as a kind of more publicly known thing.
Yeah, which is a bit crazy, right? Like, that means, again, these drivers are still kind of learning these tracks on the go as they get into it, and how confident you are to hit that line. I mean, the later and later into the event we go, obviously it will come to be, but where we sit right now, a 45.9, by the way, for J-Swag, that's an author time and then some, so a big round for them. But out in front, that lead that was 30 has now become a lead of 40. This is where Spark is pulling away.
I mean, all of the names I was expecting in that top 6 there, Spark, Min, Planetary Goose, J-Swag, SVDE, SQLC, really, really looking good there. The big surprise there to me is Crazy Bus Driver coming through with a really big time here. Have heard the name before, but really haven't seen a lot of Crazy Bus Driver in the scene myself, so good to see him up there in 7th.
That's the thing. You gotta follow more DXA, guys.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, that's the problem. All right, they're from our state. Okay, like They live where we live, the sunny state of Queensland. But at the moment, it's New Zealand that's kind of impressing as Planetary
Nick.
Goose has a massive lead out in front. And, well, yeah, Nick had to take the long way around, lost a few positions there. But the Goose, odd moments where they step up. Spark, though, having a rough one. Same too with
SQLC.
Min. So I'm wondering how this will affect the standings. Do we get a late rally from J-Swag or Goose to become a lot more relevant on our final track?
Very poor round from SQLC there as well. Lucky not to lose position. Does have a bit of a cushion there, but it's very, very much dried up there out of that round. Crazy Bus Driver kind of actually making some space there towards 6th in our seating right now.
Yeah, we'll see as they kind of find their way back up. But yeah, I'm curious if the Goose can continue to put on those performances and really close the gap. I mean, it's still just over 100-point difference, but like that was an odd round from Spark where they struggled. And yeah, SQLC, they're gone. Look, if you bump out in the group stages, or in the seeding stages, I mean, then you're no longer relevant until you get back in the front of the index. Okay, so we don't worry about it. I don't even care who that was who bounced off the wall and did a sick flip. All right, they're not important until they get across that finish line in a top 5 spot. All right, so Nami, who is now Nami's important again. Remember Nami from before?
Yeah.
Well, guess what? They're important again right now because it looks like they're going to be finishing 4th, and that's the performance from Nami that I wanted to see.
Yeah, Nami making a really good name for themselves there. Of course, all the way back down in 12th. It's probably not going to make too much of a difference to them at this point, but everything counts. Might even make up some good points on Paul there, who's back in 11th now. Must have dropped some of that consistency in the last map, I think, and coming into this one as well. Paul was consistently around that 7th, 8th mark, and not seeing him hold it.
Min, though, did catch up a little bit right there, so that was a 20-point cut into the lead after they win that round. So as we go through this one more time, we'll see if Min can kind of go back-to-back. It's going to need to if they want that #1 seed, which is still very much, I would say, up for grabs, and probably will come down to the last couple rounds. But for this round in particular, again, DXA, Bus Driver, right up there with Min, or at least they were until they went wide on that grassy bank, and now all of a sudden it's Spark who is competing for the lead, reminding us who's currently in first place.
There you go, inside that obstacle again. Min holding a lead now, though, as Spark did take a slightly slower line through that corner to cut it. And now Min right on top of Spark here, just edging out ahead. This is really close, but it does look like we're going to see that first place out from Min. Crazy Bus Driver coming in 3rd. Big points there for Crazy Bus Driver. Might just push him through to 6th.
Yeah, that's going to be a big result right there for the Bus Driver. SQLC and J-Swag also up towards the front. They've been consistently, J-Swag has been constantly getting top 5s, it feels like, on this track. And as we watch Stars ID come across in a 20th place, Min with another chunk into that lead, another 10-point closure, will be going into our 5th track. Or actually, sorry, one more round here, and then we are going into our last track right now. I confused myself.
Ice.
Not a lot of a difference between these two, and with how fickle ice can be, that 25-point lead, it can evaporate with one bad round.
It's not too hard of a toboggan to do. It's really only a very small portion of ice. This is not an ice-heavy
doesn't matter.
Season, but it does exist. It does exist, and it will catch some players out 100%.
I mean, Crazy Bus Driver, you're just repeating what your new favorite driver, Crazy Bus Driver, is saying in the Twitch chat. All right, who should be focusing on driving and not listening to us, mind you. But yeah, all right.
Yeah,
get into the good graces of the driver who you didn't know he existed.
Look, Bus, it's the only bit of ice in the entire season. It's worth calling out, man. We've got to talk about it. It's got eyes.
I just wanted more, all right?
Yeah, me too.
Let me wish. Let me pretend.
J-Swag is in a very good position. He actually only 1 point between J-Swag and Sved in 4th and 5th. And there's a bit of a jump back to SQLC, who is now defending his position from Crazy Bus Driver, who in the last map gained some big points on him.
Make our way, still in these warm-up stages, so there are going to be battles happening throughout, and again, especially when you kind of look in the cup on point format, the middle of the pack is always where things get spicy, particularly towards the end. So we'll be keen to get into this one and see how we play it out. And yeah, look, this isn't really an ice map. It has bits and bobs of everything, your grass, your dirt, but then this big dramatic ice banking turn right in towards the end of it all right? That's where it's going to be made or broken. I don't know. Maybe it's because we live in Queensland, Gex, that we just like never
Just
see
not
ice.
used to ice, yeah.
It's just
It's exciting to us.
Ice as a concept is somewhat something of a fairy tale, of a myth, okay? Like, we're not even sure it's real up here. As we do start off our next round right now, and already I noticed a couple guards just going straight into that pole to begin with. That's a little bit awkward, but what's not awkward is Min, again, off to a very hot start.
And Crazy Bus Driver chasing up second as well. This is a big risk to SQLC now. If SQLC can't get out ahead and keep a position above Crazy Bus Driver, he could just be edged out for that sixth position, in the seeding.
Well, the bus driver is looking better and better as they go, and the one who's falling a little bit further back is Spark, actually. P4 might seem good, but when you're trying to hold off Min, who has just been winning round after round, this is not where you need to be. Here we go into the ice section. Good landing from Min. Spark was a little bit shaky, but still comes out with a stronger exit. Actually might have the better line here if they can maintain the speed. Unfortunately, let the tail slide a bit too much, so Min cuts another 15 points into the lead. Bus driver right there in the middle of it all. It's going to come down to the last round between these two, Gex. I can feel it. Min and Spark are going to fight for that first place.
Yeah, they really are. It does not have a lot in it here, and it's going to close up even more at the end of this round, as it was 734 to 708. Now a 15-point gain back from Min here. It's going to be 769 to 758 now. Really close. 11-point difference.
I mean, look, also, I think this is like one of the few tracks where like that author time, maybe not as high as we should be expecting from the other drivers, so it's not as strong as a benchmark right here. Everyone consistently getting a second or two ahead of it, but that's neither here nor there. What is here is a rough start from Spark, actually, who finds himself all the way back in the middle of the pack, which is not where you want to be. However, Min, I think, ran into some struggles as well initially, although no, they're still up there in the front. As Spark bottled the landing on the half pipe, and they're going to fall even further back.
Oh, Spark going to sacrifice some points here, and it really only had to be the exact same thing as last round again to sacrifice that lead. Might have just happened, as the number one seed is going to fall to Min here. There's still rounds to fix it.
Yeah, but with Min so far out in front, like this is a massive time for Min at 53.6. Meanwhile, Spark all the way back down at P7. It's going to be a 31-point swing. Super fast time. Min coming in clutch and with only 3 rounds left.
Half a second ahead of second place here. Everybody kind of slotting in behind that. Gotta say, Crazy Bus Driver out ahead of most of the pack there as well in that second position. So that's even more impressive of Min, but Bus Driver, where did you come from on this one? Has just taken that 6th place from SQLC.
Yeah, and it's only a couple points, like only 10 points away from 5th as
from
well.
J-Swag,
so
yeah.
Bus driver
J-Swag's not been doing well.
No, J-Swag's been falling back, so we'll see if the bus driver will be able to be making some late runs. At the moment, though, Spark, a much better start off to this run. Now the one chasing Min after having that lead over them, what it feels like for the past 10 rounds. They once again have shifted positions, and with Min looking stronger on this track than any other track yet, maybe, perhaps, this driver could be our number one seed. Landing the half hike, Spark goes very high, maintains that speed, but not really the best angle, is finding themselves dropping further and further back. Also, watch out for SVD and Planetary Goose. They could be running into the middle of this mix as well. And Spark gives them second place. That's even more points. They could be falling behind. Here through the ice bank, Spark goes high, Min went low, and Spark lost control, loses so many positions. Min, again, is going to get another big chunk in their favor.
And some of the easiest ice I've seen as well. That bank should not be difficult for players of this level. It really is almost not worth mentioning the ice here. What is worth mentioning is the fact there's no plastic here, which generally speaking, the amount of concrete we're seeing, this is a very fast-paced track. And that might be the effect there. You take that pace into the ice and you can face difficulties.
Speaking of fast pace, a 53.3 right there from Min, fastest time yet on this one. Actually, sorry, 53.2. My apologies, 0.285. Incredible stuff. And I think with that, Min pretty much just needs to drive consistent till the end, and we'll be getting that number one seed. Also, I want to call out everybody, yourself included, Gex, who made fun of me for saying the ice would make a factor in this track, all right? It certainly did. This is why we need to be fearful of ice, okay? Doesn't matter the context, always be afraid.
Spark now doing very well, but behind Crazy Bus Driver this time. Crazy Bus Driver has been showing consistently high enough times to take a first place here and just hasn't been able to edge it out.
Well, I mean, yeah, they've been consistently high times. The problem is Min has still been half second faster than everybody else. So, like, in a normal lobby, yeah, Bus Driver would be right up there, but the problem has been Min. SQLC and Spark as well putting in a good round this time on it, but Min's just a machine, it feels like. Although with that bonk at the end, they actually lose P1, drop to P3. So there you go. Even the best can make little mistakes. Bus Driver up there in P4 as well, 53.8, a little bit slower than our last round. But hey, Spark cuts into that lead a bit.
This is, Spark making some room back, but it's just such a big lead from Min. He's been so consistent. Planetary Goose from map 1 has looked really good and has held that third position without too much problem. Sved now holding a position well as well. J-Swag and SQLC taking back the position from Crazy Bus Driver.
Yeah, and I mean, that's going to be the battle. This is our last round, Gex. This is the final one. Before we get, kind of finalize our seeding and start looking into the upper brackets. So we'll see how it plays out. Min has a nice lead unless they, have a big choke. It does look like it's going to be Min in that number 1 spot. And it's Spark actually who falls and falls behind. So with that,
that's going to be disaster.
They'll be getting the number 1 seed.
And you can't be too disappointed with second seed here. You're going to start fairly well. But yeah, definitely a big margin here for Min now secured. Somebody who's kind of quietly done very well in the background to secure a top 8 finish here is Simply Nick as well, just slipping into that 8th spot, but with quite a lead on 9th there, has just had the consistency with the experience they're bringing in.
As we come across that line for the last time, Crazy Bus Driver actually will be the one getting that first place spot. And
there it is.
I mean, they've been putting good times, I feel like, throughout. They finally got under that 54-second mark for a 53.9 to finish strongly. Min right there in second, but that's all they needed. The GGs come out. We'll take one look here at our top 10. Min, Spark, Planetary Goose, Crazy Bus Driver, SVD, J-Swag. They were the top 5, and well-deserving it to them. A mighty nice-looking podium right there as we get the rest. Tryhard Nubs sneaking into the top 10 as well. Name we didn't talk about too much. A good show from them.
Yeah, our OCE just sneaking into the top 3 there as well. 3rd place going out to one of those Trackmania New Zealand representatives. Like we said, TMNZ, that tag coming out looking really, really good for one of the non-team entries.
Yeah, it looks really, really strong up. I mean, you can say the same thing about Min right now, right? Like, they just look incredibly strong throughout that opening seeding phase. But again, this was just the seeding, and realistically, we only saw like half the drivers competing. Like, there's still that other seeding pool that was happening at the same time. So we will see how that all plays out. We're going to give our admins some time to sort it all out as well. Well, we are going to be throwing to a quick intermission. When we come back, though, the event begins in earnest. No more seeding, only competition. It's the rounds that matter, Gex. So we need to get hyped for it. So should you. We'll be back in a few moments.